of the Honorable Minister Anwarul Haq Ahadi from the Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation and Livestock, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Irrigation and Natural Resources, Hashmatullah Ghafoori. From Bangladesh, the Honorable Minister Bir Bahadur Ushwe Singh MP from the Ministry of Chittagong Hill Tracts Affairs. From Bhutan, the Honorable Minister Lompo Yeshe Penjor from the Ministry of Agriculture and Forests. From China, on behalf of the Honorable Vice President of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Professor Zheng Yaping, the Honorable Vice Director of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Professor Yang Yongping. From India, the Honorable Union Minister Prakash Javadekar from the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. From Myanmar, the Honorable Union Minister Wu Ong Win from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Conservation. From Nepal, the Honorable Minister Shakti Bahadur Basnet from the Ministry of Forests and Environment. From Pakistan, the Honorable Federal Minister Syed Fakhar Imam from the Ministry of National Food Security and Research. Welcome to our distinguished guests, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs from Nepal, Honorable Ministers from all of our HKH countries, and Chinese Academy of Sciences Vice Director, and the Honorable Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission in Nepal. Your Excellencies, ambassadors from within and from the region. I'd also like to acknowledge that here in this meeting with us today are regional members of our ICIMOD Board of Governors who have tirelessly supported the process that brings us to this summit here today. We have 3 segments to this program. The last segment is one group photo of all of the honorable ministers. To begin the program, I'd like to introduce the Director General of ICIMOD, Dr. David Molden, to give opening remarks and share with us the vision for this summit. Over to you, Dr. David Molden.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers, excellencies, ambassadors, honorable ICIMOD board members, ICIMOD support group members, distinguished dignitaries, colleagues, and friends. Today is a landmark day for the people and mountains of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, for Asia and the world. Today is the day that our mountains bring us together to address many of the global challenges facing humanity. The Hindu Kush Himalaya, the HKH, is the pulse of the planet. When the pulse is strong, we know that humanity is healthy. But when the pulse is weak, we know we have problems in the world. And while we feel a weak pulse in the HKH, we also feel that today is a turning point to strengthen cooperation and prosperity in the region. We know the challenges: the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, disasters, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation, the SDG challenges of poverty, inequality, and hunger. It is also a rapidly changing mountain world with migration, growing towns and cities, globalization, and connectivity. But we know where hope lies, in the incredible strength and resilience of mountain women and children, and in the diversity of mountain cultures with their traditional knowledge that have managed to thrive in unique and difficult mountain environments. Hope also lies in the willingness of governments to address these challenges, as we are witnessing today. ICIMOD, the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, was formed 36 years ago with its 8 regional member countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan, and headquartered in Kathmandu, Nepal. ICIMOD's mission is to enable sustainable and resilient mountain development for improved and equitable livelihoods through knowledge and regional cooperation. Our mission is now even more important than ever. ICIMOD recognizes that it is a mission that can only be achieved by working together in partnership with all of its many member countries and with many stakeholders. We have been working together with researchers, practitioners, and policymakers to shed more light and enhance science on this remote mountain area And I am happy to say that our science is rapidly advancing in the fields of climate change, glaciers and snow, air, water, biodiversity, and also social and economic dimensions of mountain areas. Importantly, we have also been working to develop solutions to new and different sets of problems in mountain farming, in biodiversity conservation, in empowerment of women and other marginalized groups. And many years of work and experience from the region has been captured in the HKH assessment, which brought over 350 researchers and practitioners from the region and the globe. We recognize the unique yet fragile Hindu Kush Himalaya are shared amongst 8 countries. Water and air move across borders. Plants and animals know no boundaries. Mountain countries share common concerns about the severe impacts of climate change. We know that sharing knowledge and experience across countries can only help to address the enormous challenges we face. We also know that the costs of non-cooperation between the countries is far too high. For example, the floods, disasters, and conflicts that are known to this region. We know that the benefits of cooperation are huge. Better management of natural resources, sharing of ideas and solutions, promoting trade and advancing science. Cooperation and joint action will lead to an HKH region in which its societies and its people, its children, women and men, are food, energy, water, and environmentally secure, and ultimately prosperous, healthy, peaceful, and poverty-free. And that's why we're here together today, together with our ISIMOD Board of Governors and stakeholders in all of our 8 regional member countries. An HKH call to action was developed, and it is placed on the table today for endorsement, calling for action through cooperation from communities, businesses, civil society, government, the region, and the world, recognizing the uniqueness of mountains, addressing climate change, increasing the resilience of people and ecosystems, and increasing knowledge sharing, and calling for urgent action to fulfill SDGs in the mountains. With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we can see how much more urgent these actions are, since they all help to pave a way toward a more inclusive and green recovery for the HKH region. The ministerial declaration tabled today recognizes and supports this call to action. It also calls for a biennial ministerial mountain summit and a regular science policy forums to formulate evidence-based programs and policies for sustainable mountain development. Importantly, it calls for a united voice on HKH mountains to give a much stronger voice to the mountain agenda and bring issues of the region more prominently onto the global stage. We have the power of 8 countries. With a united mountain voice, due attention will be given to mountain issues at global events, such as UNFCCC and CBD COPs, and thereby bring increased investments to the mountains for sustainable development. Where can this call to action go? This is an important first step to a long-lasting and growing cooperation amongst the regional member countries of ISIMOD. We are inspired by the 8 countries who form the Arctic Council and the 8 countries forming the Alpine Convention. There is great potential that this summit can evolve in its own way into a more formal relationship between our 8 HKH member countries, 8 countries working for one HKH. ISIMOD, with its regional mission, will be there to support by maintaining its status as a neutral regional platform and enhancing its role in generating evidence-based knowledge and solutions to benefit the region and the world. This day, which has brought ministers together from 8 countries, is indeed a historic day to remember. On another note, this is my last moment as Director General of ISIMOD. And I've been honored and inspired to serve the HKH for 9 years. Today, I would like to pass the responsibility to Dr. Pema Jamsho, a mountain champion from the region who has great knowledge, experience, passion, and drive to take the agenda forward. And personally, I will always remain in support of the HKH agenda. Thank you all very much. Back over to you, Laurie.
Thank you, Dr. David Molden. As he mentioned in his remarks, the HKH call to action is in front of us today. It was developed through a consultative process in all of the 8 HKH countries. To orient us to that process, I'd like to introduce ICIMOD's Chief Policy Advisor, Mr. Brij Singh Rathore. Over to you, Mr. Rathore.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie Wesley. I'm sorry that there is a bit of connectivity problem this side, so I have to resort back to my mobile internet. Honorable dignitaries, please allow me to walk you through to the process of getting the HKH call to action in place. This is a story, and the story has 2 parts. The first part of the story basically is about knowing the HKH. Knowing the HKH with evidences, with the science. So 350 scientists from the region worked for nearly 5 years period to come out with what we now see is as HKH assessment report. This report was released last year. So what does this report broadly contain? I'm sure David has already flagged few issues, but it brings out the uniqueness of HKH region. It does talk about the drivers of change. It does talk about the impacts which these changes have in the HKH mountains. And of course, there are ideas about the way forward. But also, I think if you look at the decade of 20s, there have been some remarkable development. The regional assessment happened, but also the regional member countries took up the national assessments. So what ultimately, in knowing the HKH well enough, so the information and data which was earlier lacking for the HKH is now in place. That takes us to the second part of the story, which is from knowing to doing. And this story of doing has a very interesting process, which I really wanted to share with you. Over 8 months last year, the process of consultation happened in each of the 8 regional member countries. This was facilitated by the Ministry. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Mr. Rathore. You're audible.
I'm sorry, I think I got distracted. So this process happened in 8 of the 8 regional member countries, and duly facilitated by the nodal ministries in each of the countries. And I think if you look at the kind of participation which it drew, it was a multi-stakeholders participation, which included policymakers, senior government officials, the academia, the researchers, the civil society organizations, the business representatives, the donor communities. So a whole gamut of these stakeholders got engaged with this process in each of the 8 regional member countries. And what is the outcome of this entire process? This is today in your hands. This is the HKH call to action, which has been co-produced by 8 regional member countries. Thereby, this ownership comes out very strongly. I think I also need to really share with you a very important milestone in this process happened last year, where the ICIMOD Board of Governors meeting happened in last September in Gangtok, India. And the 2 key decisions were taken in this meeting. One of the first decision was to have the Ministerial Mountain Summit in 2020. And the second one was setting up a task force from the 8 regional member countries to take the process forward, to provide oversight and to also help drafting this, what we now see the draft declaration from the Ministerial Summit. And let me admit, and also to our colleagues in ICIMOD, what a rewarding process has been working with this this task force, having joint secretaries from 8 regional member countries, helping us to put together this draft declaration. So this has again showing the ownership of this draft declaration, which is actually now with 8 regional member countries. Ideally, if nothing, this would have been a business as usual, then we would have had this meeting of ministers in real time and in the real place, which is Kathmandu, sometimes in April 28th and 29th. But the COVID-19 pandemic change everything. The huge disruption. We have to now hold this meeting virtually, and today is the day for this. So it's been a long journey. I think now I also must talk about, which David actually flagged, this power of 8. Power of 8 actually is the power of intention. And today it is manifested through 8 ministers from our regional member countries coming together. This is a huge step, very significant step, which is now taking forward this process of co-creation and ownership to take actions at local, national, regional, and global scale. This is the new chapter in the story, and this chapter obviously is one of the most significant chapter, which we are sure will help HKH to become to move towards the vision of prosperous, poverty-free, and resilient HKH. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Laurie Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Rathore. All participants should have received a copy of the HKH Call to Action document with your invitation. Now, to take us through the call to action, our ISIMO Deputy Director General, Dr. Eklavya Sharma, will make a presentation. Over to you, Dr. Sharma.
Can you see my video? Hello, can you see my presentation?
I'm not seeing it quite yet, Dr. Sharma.
Just wait. Just a moment.
I think it is seen.
Can you see now?
Yes, Dr. Sharma, thank you.
Okay, a very good morning and good afternoon to the participants here, honorable dignitaries. I'm going to talk about the Hindu Kush Himalayan assessment and the HK's call to action. First of all, the importance of this region, then I'll provide some of the key highlights and findings of the assessment, and then, of course, talk about the HK's call to action. If you look at this particular slide, you can see how the Hindu Kush Himalayan region can be seen from the space. So it's one of the global assets when we look into food, energy, water, carbon, and cultural and biological diversity. This is the pulse of the planet. If something happens here, the entire planet is affected. This is a very important region. And if we look at this slide, the darker part are the mountains and the hills. And 10 major rivers actually originate from here and shared by 8 countries. And all these 8 countries are represented here. Honorable ministers are actually making statements today. And 240 million people live in the mountains. And if we look at the river basins, then about 1.9 billion people live in this region. This is a huge region where mountains and downstream are connected. And the Hindu Kush Himalayan region has a very important importance because also of the biodiversity. Mountains occupy about 50% of global biodiversity hotspots. Out of that, 4 of the hotspots are here in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. Mountains of Central Asia, Himalaya, mountains of Southwest China, and Indo-Burman. There is a high endemism here. Means if the species is lost, this endemic species, this is lost from the world. So this is very, very important that this global asset is to be protected. And we have seen this region is still unexplored. In the 10 years time from 1998 to 2008, about 350 new species have been discovered alone from the Eastern Himalayan region. And that means I think we need to know much more from this region. Very importantly, this is one of the most populated region in the world. Mountains are thinly populated, but if you see the downstream, the dark red region, see, it's heavily populated region in the world. And we know mountains don't receive so much of attention because decisions are made elsewhere. So we need to really bring that perspective. And today, honorable ministers are here so that we really bring the attention of the countries who enjoy this Hindu Kush Himalayan region so that the mountains receives more attention in coming years. The food which is produced from the downstream is also catering to 3 to 4 billion people, half of humanity. From the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. So it's very, very important region. Another very important aspect of this region is high cultural and the human societal diversity. We have more than 1,000 living languages. That means, so the diversity of the people, their capacity to really build the adaptation, resilience over the centuries, and their traditional knowledge systems are intact. So in terms of our future work, I think the knowledge systems that they carry, the capacity, the human resources are very important. So what happens in the mountains actually affects 1/4 of the humanity directly. I mentioned 1.9 billion people in mountains and downstream, but the food produced caters to 3 to 4 billion people. That is half of humanity. So you see Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra, Yangtze, Yellow, all these rivers, there is a huge food production and it is catering to a large number of population. So ICIMOD with its partners and many professionals from the region and outside actually have carried out this Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment report. And this report has been launched in 2019 February, and then we really see that lots of evidences have been generated from the work that is done for about 5 years. So it's a first comprehensive report, and we didn't want to just remain in the scientific evidences or generating scientific evidences. We wanted to take it further. To give some of the highlights of the report, let's look into the poverty. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region is one of the most poverty-ridden region. The paradox is that we have very rich natural resources, but still people are very poor. Can we change this narrative? This is something which we need to see and work in future. 1/3 of the mountains and hill people, that is 33% are poor in the mountains. Whereas if we compare the national average, it is only 1/4. And if we look at the multidimensional poverty in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, you can see the light blue here, very clearly mountains are much more poorer when we look into multidimensional poverty. That means I think our concentration has to really be on how we can address the issues of reducing mountain poverty. The other very important findings are on food security. 30% of the Hindu Kush Himalayan population actually suffers from food insecurity, and 50% people are malnourished. And we see 1/5 of 1/2 of the children below 5 years are actually stunted. This is a huge, I think, gap where we need to put our efforts. Energy poverty, more than 500 gigawatt, 500,000 megawatt potential, which can cater to energy for 500 million homes. But we see 80% of our rural population are still lacking access to clean energy for cooking. Out-migration is happening from the mountains. Lots of remittances are coming. I think that remittances can be also used in a way that can bring the prosperity in the mountains. The biodiversity loss was mentioned. 70 to 80% of its original habitat in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region related to 1500th century is already lost. And 60 to 85% of our people are actually depending on biodiversity for subsistence. So it is such an important area. Then when we look at the gender, the poverty, both income and energy related poverty, food insecurity, and migration affect actually women, children, and marginalized community more than others. Then we don't have policy and responses to really look into this. So we need to really see how these multiple forms of exclusions are addressed in future. The big driver of change that we have seen in the mountains here in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is climate change. In Paris 2015, we agreed to keep under 2-degree world. And if it is 1.5 degrees world by 2100, then it is too hot for the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And with the current emission, I can tell you it's going to be 5.5 degree, which is a very, very high rate of warming. The one of the issue I think that we would really like to highlight here is that most of our Hindu Kush Himalayan region is carbon neutral and carbon negative. Yet, I think our people haven't contributed to climate change, but people are actually victims of climate change. So suddenly, I think lots of investment, lot of efforts have to come from outside for the people of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region to really mitigate as well as go for adaptation and resilience building in this region. When we say one of the indicators of climate change, which is quite visible now, is 1.5 degree world, then we are going to lose 1/3 of our glaciers by 2100. With the current emission, 2/3 of the volume of glaciers will be lost. That means lots of impact downstream. The impact of climate change itself on downstream is also quite evident, and we can see the region is going to suffer. One of the major issues that we see is disaster risk. It is increasing. We have seen floods, droughts, landslides, glacial lake outbursts. Intensity and frequencies are increasing. And if we look at the graph below, what we can also see easily is we can see is the economic loss, how much people are affected, how many people are killed, and then, of course, the events. And we have seen from 1980 to 2010, the trend is really increasing, and we see lots of economic loss and lots of lives of the people are actually lost. So this is very critical and important. Another very important regional issue is air pollution and the black carbon, short-lived climate forces which are produced in this region. So how can we really address this issue is also quite important. The air pollutants also makes regional and local temperature rise. There is accelerated glacier and snow melt. We have also seen effects of circulation of monsoons, and distribution of rainfall is going to be affected by the air pollutants, negative impact on health, and reduces crop productivity. So looking into those findings, the science findings, we wanted to move into action. And to move into the action, the findings were taken to the countries, we discussed, and we co-produced the HKH call to action to sustain the mountain environments and improve livelihoods in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And as this was being produced and developed with the countries, then the COVID-19 happened. And because of the COVID-19, even the ministerial summit was moved from April to today. And in between, then we realized that I think we need to really look into COVID-19 impact and policy response, and the policy paper has been developed. And this policy paper, as well as HK's call to action, there are recommendations for action, so they need to be taken forward together. So the HKH futures, if we look at, we want to be a prosperous region. We do not want to go downhill by not cooperating, and we didn't want to muddle through. But if we want to be prosperous, large-scale investment with regional cooperation and also bottom-up investment with local and national cooperation is quite critical. So both of these approaches, paths are required for cooperation and coordination, and this is quite critical if we want to really see the prosperous Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. Call to action. I think we know enough. There is a lot of evidences and science, and we need to really act now. And this is why we are meeting today. But we would like to see continue having better data, knowledge, communication, and cooperation. That will also mean there is better action in future. So we do both together. The vision of the HK's call to action is to have prosperous, peaceful, and poverty-free mountain people. We need to really see food, energy, environment, and water are secured. We want to see our mountain communities are resilient on climate and disaster in this region and in the world. So 6 urgent actions that have been identified and are being taken forward in the HK's call to action are the cooperation at all levels across the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. We really want to promote science, policy, and practice. We want to see investments coming to the mountains. We want to see national, regional, and international cooperation. We want to see cooperation between people and people, government and government, business and business, and build trust among the countries who are cooperating for the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. We would like to really recognize and prioritize the uniqueness of the Hindu-Kush Himalayan mountain people. We need to collectively define the mountain agenda, taking inputs from all stakeholders. We want to really see the voice of the mountains, voice of the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region and its people. We want to really see HKH calling for communication and for fostering collaboration and collaborative action in the region. And we want to really see mountain champions and leaders taking the mission forward. Limiting global warming to under 1.5 degree. I think this is one of the major things where our people can only adapt, and very little mitigation efforts from the mountains can be foreseen, but we would like to see mitigation in terms of energy, in terms of atmospheric pollutions, the soft-lit climate pollutants. We want to have cooperation, north-south cooperation, south-south cooperation, and move forward to really meet the challenges of climate change. In achieving the SDGs in the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, the assessment has identified 9 mountain priorities which are consistent with SDGs, and we really see mountain-specific policies are required to address the mountain issues. For enhancing ecosystem resilience, I think sustainably managing our forests, wetlands, agriculture, this is quite critical, all our natural ecosystems and man-made ecosystems. But transboundary cooperation is equally important, and nature-based solutions are critical. Finally, the 6th action is to share information and knowledge. We would like to see HKH-wide cooperation in data, information, and good practices for goods and services to be shared, and also with outside the region. ICIMOD has regional database system, and that needs to be used more in coming years. Now, coming to the resilient recovery from COVID-19, I mentioned about the policy paper. We have taken an integrated approach where economic, food security, nutrition, social dimension, gender, environmental dimension, climate action and resilience, looking into the policy, regional cooperation and international cooperation in the context of COVID was dwelt. And we have looked into impacts, risks and vulnerabilities, but more importantly, we have identified actions, short-term, medium-term and long-term, and some policy responses. So from our side, we would like to see the HK's call to action and the resilient recovery from COVID-19 to move forward through a regional cooperation and international support. You can see in this slide, few years ago, Right Honorable President of Nepal, with many ministers from our HKS countries and our development partners from all over the world sitting and talking and thinking of the action, joint action in this region, the dream for HKH Science Policy Forum, and that is going to be realized today with the HKH Ministerial Declaration on HKH Call to Action. And we want to really move forward in terms of our work. And we immediately see UNFCCC COP26 Glasgow, UK, and UN Convention on Biological Diversity COP15 in Kunming, China, both of these events next year. And this region can really showcase our cooperation and move forward. Finally, the declaration which is going to happen today and the summit which we are having today is the first step by our regional member countries in protecting the pulse of the planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eklavya Sharma. As Dr. Molden and Dr. Sharma have mentioned in their remarks, this summit has a ministerial declaration on the HKH call to action. The text of this declaration will be read out by my colleague, Senior Livelihoods and Migration Specialist, Dr. Amina Moharjan. Over to you, Dr. Moharjan.
Thank you, Dr. Vasily. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Honorable dignitaries, please allow me to read out the declaration prepared by the task force consisting of joint secretaries and endorsed by honorable ministers of the 8 regional member countries. Ministerial Declaration on the HKH Call to Action. We, the ministers of the 8 Hindu Kush Himalaya HKH countries, recognize that urgent steps are required to sustain mountain environments and improve livelihoods in the HKH, extending 3,500 kilometers over 8 countries from Afghanistan in the west to Myanmar in the east and crossing Pakistan, India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. The HKH is one of the world's greatest mountain systems, home to the world's highest peaks, unique cultures, diverse flora and fauna, and a vast reserve of natural resources. The HKH directly supports the livelihoods of over 240 million people living in its hills and mountains, and it yields many benefits to the nearly 2 billion people living in the mountain and downstreams. The HKH is a vital regional lifeline, but human drivers, climate change, and presently the COVID-19 pandemic pose grave and immediate threats to livelihoods, biodiversity, energy, food, and water security, and ultimately sustainability. In support of the recent United Nations General Assembly resolution on sustainable mountain development, which recognizes the importance and multidimensional contributions of mountains for sustainable development. We appreciate the efforts of the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICIMOD, an intergovernmental organization of the 8 HKH countries for its services to the mountains and people of the HKH over the past 36 years. We welcome the publication of the first HKH assessment, which assesses the state of the HKH and its future prospects. The report was produced by the Hindu Kush Himalayan Monitoring and Assessment Program, HIMAP, a long-term integrated science policy initiative coordinated by ICIMOD and engaged over 350 leading researchers, practitioners, and policy specialists working in the HKH. Guided by the country consultations on the HKH assessment and the HKH call to action, which serves as a roadmap for the future of the HKH, and the decision taken at the meeting of the ICIMOD Board of Governors on 17 September 2019 in Gangtok, Sikkim, India, to explore the possibilities of organizing an HKH Ministerial Mountain Summit. We recognize and support both the vision of the HKH call to action, which calls for a prosperous, peaceful, and poverty-free region that is food, energy, and water secure, and climate and disaster resilient communities in the mountains, downstream and beyond, and the ICIMOD policy paper, COVID-19 Impact and Policy Responses in the Hindu Kush Himalaya, which calls for a resilient recovery from the pandemic. We appreciate that the HK's call to action highlights the urgent local, national, regional, and global actions needed to sustain this global asset through substantially increased investments from business and government and more robust regional cooperation, sustaining mountain environments, raising awareness across multiple stakeholders, improving livelihoods, taking concerted actions as per the Paris Agreement to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursue efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2100 and achieving the SDGs. We, the ministers, agree to hold a biennial HKS Ministerial Mountain Summit to take joint actions for strengthening regional cooperation in the HKS and to review and discuss emerging issues. To promote a united voice for the HKS at regional, global, and UN platforms. To hold the multi-stakeholder HKS science policy forums on a regular basis in order to enhance the uptake of scientific evidence for improving policies in the region, focusing on mountain environments and livelihoods. To constitute a task force with high-level representation from the 8 HKS countries to assess the feasibility of establishing a regional institutional mechanism. The task force should assess similar regional collaborative platforms or institutions from different parts of the world and recommend a feasible configuration for the HKS region in a report to be submitted to the next HKS Ministerial Summit. The task force would also monitor the progress of the HKS call to action. We, the ministers of the HKS, agree that ICIMOD will serve as the secretariat to the HKS Ministerial Mountain Summit, the HKS Science Policy Forum, and the task force, and coordinate HKS level monitoring and assessments on a regular basis. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Vasili.
Thank you, Dr. Maharjan. As the host government for the ICIMOD office here in Nepal, the government of Nepal, through many of its offices, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has for the entire history of the organization been a gracious host, assisting the institution in innumerable ways. We're grateful that from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nepal, the Honorable Minister Pradeep Kumar Giwali has joined this summit today. I'd like now to invite the Honorable Minister Giwali to start the ministerial segment of the program with your welcome remarks. Over to you, Honorable Minister Giwali.
Thank you, Dr. Vasili. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Board of Governors and Director General of ICIMOD, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar and greetings from Nepal. At a time when the world is confronted with an unprecedented crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have gathered virtually in today's summit. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the ICIMOD in organizing this important summit. It is a timely initiative in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic to deliberate on the impacts of the pandemic to the people of Hindu Kush region and reaffirm our collective resolve and further strengthen cooperation among the member states. Excellencies, the Hindu Kush Himalaya region represents the largest reserve of ice and snow on the earth outside the polar region. It serves as a fountain for fresh drinking water for billions of people, an indispensable water reservoir for the major river systems, and an important source of clean, green, and renewable energy in the region. Likewise, the HKS region treasures a variety of herbs and plants having medicinal and aromatic values. It also caters the genetic diversity of crops, contributing to the food security and nutrition, and preserves mountain resilient indigenous knowledge and technology, among others. It is estimated that nearly 1.9 billion people are directly or indirectly dependent on the region for the fulfillment of their requirements of food, water, and energy. The region is blessed with spectacular mountains, lush green valleys, picturesque lakes, alpine meadows, and emerald grasslands. A true heaven on the earth that one could imagine. Culturally, it is one of the most diverse regions in the world. It has been a unique laboratory and a true source of knowledge for many scholars, disciples, and researchers due to its richness in natural and cultural heritage, biodiversity, and flora and fauna, many of which are yet to be discovered. The ancient Silk Roads and the trails passing through these Himalayas speak louder than words in today's intensely globalized world, old order. These ancient mountain heritage have witnessed our prosperity in the form of business and trade, knowledge and innovation, arts and crafts, and friendship and shared prosperity across the Himalayas and among the society. The SKS region houses the 14 highest mountain peaks above 8,000 meters. Among many others, out of them, Nepal is the custodian of the 8 highest peaks, including the Mount Sagarmatha, Mount Everest, the top of the world. Nepal highly values mountains, as these are the lifelines of our people to earn livelihood and to lead lives. Mountains are the sources of fresh water, diverse flora and fauna, and natural and cultural heritage coupled with mountain resilient indigenous knowledge and traditions. Let us not forget that these mountains have been crucial in stabilizing global climate change, which bear an organic, intrinsic, and natural connections with the sea level rise. Located on the lap of Himalayas, we have inherited mountain resilient cultural heritage from our forefathers and have been working with the international community in conserving mountains and their ecosystems and preserving mountain-based civilization. Therefore, mountains are our unique identity as well as the core elements of our development aspirations toward prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. It was natural for Nepal to have played a leading role to establish the EC mode in Kathmandu. Our predecessors visualized the importance of such a regional organization long back, which has made tremendous progress since then to grab the opportunities and address the challenges confronted by us all. At this opportune moment, let me also mention here that Nepal had decided to convene the first episode of Sagarmatha Samvad, a global dialogue forum in April this year under the theme of climate change, mountains, and the future of the humanity, but had to postpone due to the outbreak of COVID-19. We are determined to organize in it next year. Ladies and gentlemen, mountains have been facing immense challenges over the years. The rising temperature and extreme weather conditions have caused a depletion of snow, disappearances of grasslands, meadows, and wetlands, and the negative impacts on natural and cultural heritage, among others. Global warming and climate change have been rapidly changing the socio-cultural and ecological landscapes of the region. The degradation of the habitats has endangered thousands of our rare and endemic species, many of which are at the verge of extinction. Reports have shown that the temperatures of the Himalaya region have increased at a rate 3 times higher than the global average. As a consequence, the region has experienced an increased occurrence of natural catastrophes and extreme weather conditions, severely impacting the lives and the livelihood of our people. Nepal's mountain-based ancient civilization, including the ethnic lifestyles, traditional knowledge, and unique practices, are immensely threatened. Amidst these challenges, the COVID-19 pandemic is another wake-up call for us to understand the potential consequences which might occur if we continue to ignore these ground realities and place relentless pressure on nature and ecosystems. We cannot afford or waste any more time. This is a time for collective action and a renewal of our commitments in building a resilient mountain ecosystem for the safety and benefits of the humanity. We have to realize the challenges and devise our strategies accordingly. Let us mark the year 2020 as the decade to translate our collective commitments into concrete actions that could strengthen the resilience of mountain people and environment as envisioned in 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Let us call together for the full and effective implementation of the Paris Agreement, along with commensurate climate financing to deliver better results in the spirit of regional cooperation. Together, we can save our planet and people both from the climate change as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. Having said so, I once again reaffirm that Nepal has a high priority for the conservation of mountains and their ecosystems, and I look forward to work closely with the ICIMOD member states in the days ahead. Dear friends, before I conclude, let me once again welcome you all to this important summit. I hope that the summit will act as a platform to facilitate the exchanges of information, scientific knowledge, research, and the best practices that would be crucial in translating our commitments into actions. I am confident that the ministerial declaration of the summit to be adopted will be helpful in charting out the joint actions and promoting cooperation at regional and global levels in line with Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Let us not allow the ongoing pandemic to weaken our collective resolve and endeavors to protect and conserve the Hindu Kush Himalaya. As mountainous country rich in natural and cultural diversities, Nepal remains committed to work together with the concerned stakeholders in the region and beyond to mitigate the challenges of climate change and their adverse effects. I once again commend the leadership of ICIMOD for organizing such an event of global significance and for the support and contributions it has made in the conservation of the mountains and their ecosystems over the years. It is my earnest hope that the summit will make substantial contribution towards addressing the climate change and sustainable mountain development issues in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region and beyond, while keeping people's lives and livelihood at the center. I am confident the adoption of the ministerial declaration on the HKS call to action would go a long way towards meeting these shared objectives. I wish the Ministerial Mountains Summit all the success. I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Giwali. Can I now request from Afghanistan the Honorable Deputy Minister of Irrigation and Natural Resources, Hashmatullah Ghafoori, who will give remarks on behalf of the Honorable Minister Anwarul Haq Ahadi from the Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation and Livestock.
Thank you very much. Am I audible, Laurie?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, honorable ministers, delegates from the HKH regional member countries, Director General ICIMOD, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, a very good morning and a very good afternoon. It is a place of honor participating in today's Hindu Kush Himalaya Ministerial Mountain Summit to put in place unity of action for the well-being of our people. The Hindu Kush Himalaya is of the largest mountain system in the world, and everyone knows that the future of the HKH matters to over 2 billion people on the earth. Let me express my deep appreciation to the work of ICIMOD and experts from the regional member countries for their generous efforts for the undertaking of a comprehensive HKH assessment, the HKH call to action, and preparing of the COVID-19 impact and policy responses. And now, to further strengthen the mountain agenda and emphasis on the ownership of regional member countries for organizing the HKH Ministerial Mountain Summit in 2020. The Hindu Kush Himalaya region has always been a fragile ecosystem, and protecting it is our shared concern. The keys are cooperation and responsibility. Therefore, I congratulate ICMO and all the HKH member countries for organizing the virtual meeting. Today is a remarkable occasion and the initial step for a new beginning to move forward and urge for taking practical actions and at the national, regional, and international level to have a unified voice. We all know the HKH region is not only the water tower with wild nature and beautiful mountain landscapes. It is also a region very much defined by its diversity, culture, and its people living there. The HKH assessment presented science-based evidence about our region of continued challenges and change. And yes, the scientific findings are gross. This region is experiencing rapid change driven by climate change, disasters, economic growth, globalization, land use change, migration, and urbanization, which will continue to have significant consequences not only for people living in the region, but globally. The IPCC reports speak about the volumes. Moreover, all the studies demonstrate the importance of a fact and science for the urgency of action. To a large extent, climate change could be a human-made phenomenon, so it should logically give room for some optimism that it's in women and men's hand to do something about it. The 2030 Development Agenda is a milestone to overcome the socio-economic, environmental challenges, and countries are required to align their national policies for development. The HKH assessment and the subsequent consultations on HKH call to action have identified the priorities for mountain regions of HKH with its linkages to the regional and global actions. In Afghanistan, 4 decades of conflicts resulted in the loss of life, insecurity, and widespread damage to environment and natural resources. Similarly, reports indicate that being one of the most vulnerable countries in the region, Afghanistan is facing the real impacts of climate change. Hundreds of people lost their lives and thousands are displaced by floods just a month ago in 15 provinces. Moreover, ICMO recently studies has shown that Afghanistan lost 406 kilometers, which makes 13.8% of glacier area in 25 years from 1990 to 2015. These changes in the high altitudes have pressing impacts on water resources, agriculture, and ultimately on livelihoods of the larger population living downstream. Recognizing the importance of taking action on time, the government of Afghanistan has made conscious efforts toward addressing these changes over the past decade. However, walking alone on this journey will take us nowhere. Therefore, I would like to commend ICMO's effort to bring all the countries from the Hindu Kush Himalaya to join hands together for collective actions at national and regional levels to promote the HKH call to action. In our history, we have been witness that renowned regional and international cooperation networks were burned, and most of them were burned out of the crisis with the spirit of solidarity, collective action, and collective leadership to offer solutions. We should not let this unconducive situation to prolong. Therefore, we need to take many determined steps towards a sustainable future. Our healthy environment and ecosystem is our wealth. No one is safe until everyone is. The urgent action 1, which calls to promote and strengthen regional cooperation at all levels across the HKH region, is the entry point. I can further facilitate collaborations for the remaining actions and the opportunities this cooperation creates, the great potential inherent in this region. Our common goal to save the HKH requires further scientific research, business innovation, shared priorities, and a political will. Let us work together to strengthen our capacity and ensure that we will build back better towards a much healthier and more productive region. I think a periodic assessment every 5 years of the change in the HKH region would offer a better understanding for policy purposes and to further enhance sharing and prioritizing of actions. I'm sure this Ministerial Mountain Summit will be listed as the first milestone towards our shared concerns and determination to make effective and collective efforts. And we look forward to a robust regional collaboration for meaningful and productive actions that will make the HKH Mountains a better place for coming generations. Once again, I would like to congratulate ICIMO and express our full support for this initiative. I also wish to convey my sincere thanks to all those experts and partners that made this HKH assessment report, the call to action, and the HKH Ministerial Mountain Summit possible to happen. Taking this opportunity, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Excellencies, the Ministers, and the ICIMO board members for the great dedication to the well-being of HKH region and people, and for dignifying this virtual gathering with signing of declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister Ghafoori. May I now introduce our speaker from Bangladesh, the Honorable Minister Bir Bahadur Ushwe Singh MP from the Ministry of Chittagong Hill Tracts Affairs.
Thank you. His Excellency, Mr. Pradeep Kumar Gawali, Honorable Foreign Minister of the Government of Nepal, Honorable Ministers from Afghanistan, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. The Director General of CIMOT, distinguished guests, officials, and media, a very good afternoon to all of you. Let me first extend my thanks to the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, CIMOT, for organizing this meeting in this difficult time. Excellencies, the year 2020 is a very special year for us as we are celebrating the birth centenary of the father of the nation of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who was the architect of the sovereign and independent Bangladesh. Our reflections on his life, struggle, and sacrifice is a constant source of our encouragement for a bright future of Bangladesh, and celebrating his achievements give us hope and strength to cope with the challenges and adversaries such as COVID-19, health risks, and climate threat. We had planned many events for the year of observe and reflect on his life, struggle and sacrifice and celebrate his achievements, but unfortunately, due to the global pandemic, our Prime Minister decided to hold the events virtually. I would like to start by paying my deepest homage to our father of the nation, who had realized the importance of regional and global cooperation and called for a greater international cooperation to mitigate natural climates effectively. In this very first speech at the United Nations General Assembly in 1974. Ladies and gentlemen, we are passing through an unprecedented crisis in the history of humankind due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The wave of COVID-19 has affected Bangladesh like all other countries of the world. In addition to the COVID-19 pandemic, Bangladesh has also been suffering from floods and was hit by the cyclone Amphan. Thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's timely and decisive action, we have successfully managed to contain the spread of the COVID-19 infection and its fatality. The government provided food and other forms of social protection immediately for approximately 10 million people who lost their jobs due to the pandemic. The government also provided cash incentives to 5 million people, including farmers, workers, and laborers affected by the pandemic. The Ministry of Chattogram Hill Trades Affairs has also taken a number of measures, including provisions of food, aid, and cash delivery in CST to support the poor people of CST. A PCR lab has been established in Rangamati to provide fast and accurate COVID-19 test result for the 3 hill districts. Fortunately, the COVID-19 infection has shown a declining trend, and our economy is also showing some positive turns gradually. Dear friends and colleagues, we all know that the whole planet is at the risk of global warming and climate change. Like other countries in the region, Bangladesh has been facing serious challenges due to climate change. Although Bangladesh has not been a major contributor to global warming, we are one of the most vulnerable countries in the world. We have been facing a multitude of challenges due to climate change, increasing floods, drought, cyclones, sea level rise, saline institution. All of these climates have been affecting us severely. As Bangladesh is a downstream country and rainwater from two mighty rivers, Ganges and Brahmaputra, we face recurrent floods. Given our common vulnerabilities to the vagaries of the changing climate, it is important that we come together on building a future that is resilient to climate change. We welcome to Hinduskush Himalayas assessment report, which urge for collaborative action for adaptation and mitigation of climate change. The report was shared in Dhaka on October 219. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh is at the forefront in combating the climate-induced disaster through the implementation of various mitigations and adaptations programs. The Bangladesh government has been implementing many programs to mitigate impacts and vulnerability of climate change. Our scientists have developed saline, flood, and drought-resistant crop and floating agriculture technology. We have been expanding the constructions of cyclone shelters in the coastal area, first introduced by our father of nation 45 years ago. For adaptations to climate change, the government has been spending an average of $2 billion per year since 2010. Just last month, on September 7th, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the Bangladesh Regional Office of the Global Center of Adaptations GCA for South Asia. This is a milestone for our partnership, and hopefully the Global Center on Adaptation Office in Bangladesh, we identify and promote sustainable solution and innovative adaptation messenger in the region. It is also important for us to work together at a regional level, exchange ideas and best practices, and use them for a safer and shared future. Bangladesh is ready to share our experience and best practices regarding adaptations and disaster management excellence. Bangladesh is committed to regional and global cooperation. Bangladesh actively participates in SARC, the Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-social, technical, and economics cooperation, BIMSTEC, and sub-regional cooperation of BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal to strengthen connectivity and economic cooperation. Bangladesh contributes $1.5 million to SARC initiatives on COVID-19 to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The pandemic is a stark reminder that our pets and interconnected, and that no one is secured until everyone is secured. We must all work together in collaborations and in partnership to save our planet. The cause of climate change is global, so along with national and regional action, a global commitment and action for mitigation is also urgently needed. We appreciate the efforts of ICIMOD for organizing this meeting. Bangladesh is committed to strengthening regional operations of connectivity in the region for mutual benefits of all the countries. I hereby express my agreement with the ministerial declaration of the HKH call to action and urge ICIMOD to organize this meeting on a regular basis to strengthen regional cooperation and collaborations on climate change adaptation and mitigation. I thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangladesh, Chirajibo. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Ushwe Singh. From Bhutan, the Honorable Minister Lompo Yeshe Penjor from the Ministry of Agriculture and Forests. May I request you to make your remarks?
Excellencies, Honorable Ministers from the Hindu Kush Himalayan member countries, Excellencies, the ICIMOD's Board of Governance, Dr. David Malden, DG ICIMOD, officials, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to convey the warmest greetings from His Excellency Dr. Lote Tshering, Honorable Prime Minister of Bhutan, and the people of Bhutan to this August gathering. At this significant and auspicious event, it is my great privilege to deliver the country statement representing the people of Bhutan and the royal government of Bhutan. Let me extend my heartfelt appreciation to ICIMOD for hosting this important Hindu Kush Himalaya Ministerial Mountain Summit 2020 amidst the pandemic COVID-19. It certainly is a historic moment for the people of Himalayan mountains who depend on various ecosystem services within the mountain range and beyond.
Laurie, you have to unmute. Laurie, you have to unmute.
I think there may be a small connection problem from Bhutan.
Yeah, Laurie, we are trying. Little bit of problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, shall I use my computer?
We're just regaining connection with Bhutan. Yes, thank you. Our colleague, Dr. Tashi Dorji.
Continue. Can you see Lempo?
Yes.
My apologies for the technical glitches here. I'll continue with my statement. The deliberations and decisions from this summit will go a long way in preserving, protecting, and the sustainability of the Hindu Kush Himalayan mountain assets. With immense pleasure, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. David Malden, the outgoing DG of ICIMOD, for his outstanding contribution to the mountains and its communities. Under the leadership of Dr. David Malden, ICIMOD could deliver and achieve many milestones, including the HIMAP report. This report increased the ownership by the member countries and the global visibility of the mountain vulnerability to climate change. Most importantly, Dr. David, you have left behind a legacy of strong team who is capable of addressing the many challenges that Hindu Kush Himalayan mountain continues to face. Let me also extend once again a heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Pema Jamso as the new Director General of ISMOD. I'm fully confident ISMOD will grow from strength to strength under Dr. Pema Jamso's leadership. I also wish to put on record the leadership provided by ISMOD Board of Governors for providing strategic guidance, and particularly wish to thank members of the ISMOD support groups for their continued support in terms of financial resources. As we move forward, the need of board's continued guidance is felt even greater. We member countries look forward to your continuous indulgence in the ISMOD leadership. Excellencies, I would like to begin by stating that Bhutan has many good policies and practices in terms of its environmental conservation. We are blessed to have fully put in place sound environmental policies within the overarching philosophy of cross-national happiness, the GNH. The Constitution of Bhutan requires that 60% of the country should remain under forest cover for all times to come. The current forest cover, also Bhutan has committed to remain carbon neutral, currently being one of the only carbon negative country in the world. Despite being one of the champions on the environmental front, Bhutan remains as one of the most vulnerable countries in the Hindu Kush Himalayas to the impacts of climate change. With nearly 69% of the population dependent on subsistence agriculture farming practices, we have already seen disturbing trends affecting its food production due to shifting monsoon patterns and drying of spring water sources across the country. High weather variability as well has high risks on the hydropower systems of the country. We all know that hydropower is one of the main revenue generator for the country's economy. Landslides and flash floods continue to remain as major threat to its infrastructures as well as human lives. Lately, the cloudbursts triggering flash floods have been frequent and really high loads. All these natural and man-made disasters continue to impede various socio-economic progress in Bhutan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, indeed the impact of climate change transcends beyond national boundaries. No country, despite its best efforts, can be immune to these impacts, as drivers of change are global in nature. As the global leaders debate and negotiate around implementation of Paris agreements, people in our parts of the region are already struggling to deal with the impacts of climate change. Sadly, the mountain voices are rarely heard at the global negotiation platforms, and as a consequence, global funds and for adaptation and mitigation to the Hindu Kush Himalayan mountain states still remains inadequate. I would like to underline this statement and repeat it once again. Sadly, the mountain voices are rarely heard at the global negotiation. It is about ISMOD for timely production of the assessment report of the Hindu Kush Himalayas that has generated robust science-based evidence on impacts of climate change and its various drivers. The report has not only filled the much-needed data gaps of the Himalayas in the IPCC reports, but also recommends urgent HKH call to action. These reports were supplemented by the policy paper on behalf of Congress in the church and serve as Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the need for regional cooperation is more urgent than ever before. The current COVID pandemic has certainly disrupted achieving sustainable development goals across the globe, but it has also reminded us on the need to care and nurture our mother nature. Unless countries work together and put concerted effort for post-COVID green recovery pathways, the business as usual attitude will only accelerate the impacts of climate change as well as make the globe much vulnerable to many more such pandemics and disasters at unimaginable scale. Therefore, it is the most auspicious and opportune moment that ISMOD has provided this unique platform for our 8 HKH mountain nations to come together to save these Himalayas, which ISMOD aptly termed as pulse of the planet. On behalf of Bhutan, I wholeheartedly announce our endorsement of the HKH ministerial declarations and urge that Hindu Kush Himalayan Ministerial Mountain Summit be organized on regular basis. Bhutan fully recognize and support the vision of the HKH call to action, which calls for a prosperous, peaceful, and poverty-free region that is food, energy, and water secure, and climate and disaster resilient communities in the mountains, downstreams, and beyond. Furthermore, I entrust ISMOD to play an active role as a secretary to coordinate the HKH Ministerial Mountain Summit and urge ISMOD to enhance and strengthen resource mobilization and help the member countries implement HKH call to action. I also suggest that the outcome of our deliberations at this summit should feed directly into the ISMOD Governing Council to develop required support to the member countries and aim to contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Let me also pledge all our HKH member countries to support this unique and declaration and commit ourselves to put this declaration into action. It is time for our region to take full ownership of the mountain affairs and be responsible and committed to secure our valuable living here, the water tower of Asia and the global community at large. I thank you for your attention and Tashdele.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Lompo Penjor. I'm very glad that we were able to regain our connection with Bhutan. Thank you, Honorable Minister Lompo Penjor. Let's now move to our speaker from China. On behalf of Professor Zhang Yaping, the Honorable Vice President of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, our speaker today is the Honorable Vice Director of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Professor Yang Yongping. Over to you, Professor Yongping.
Honorable Minister, dear ISMOD Board of the Governors, dear Dr. David Morton, Dr. Pema Jongchu, and Dr. Ikalabia Sharma, dear colleagues and friends, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. It's a great pleasure to meet you all to attend the HKH Ministerial Mountains Summit today. On behalf of the Chinese Academy of the Sciences and China, I would like to express our highest appreciation to the ISMOD for arranging these special events and his long-term efforts to enable sustainable and resilient mountain development for the improved and equitable livelihood in the HKH region. The Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment, published last year, present a comprehensive understanding of the past course, current situation, and the future scenario of the regional unique mountains environment, peoples, and the social economies. It helps us to further recognize the significance of the HKH region as the vital lifeline, not only for the region, but also globally. It's called our attention to the immediate risks the regions of the facing, including climate change, demographic change, increasing the demand for the natural resources to drive for faster economic growth, rapid urbanization, poverty, and inadequate governance system. It highlights the needs for regional collaboration and the global efforts for the conservation and the development of the region. The assessment has laid a solid foundation for the HKH call to action. China strongly supported this vision and set the HKH call to action. We are committed to cooperating with the member country to implement this call to action. Ladies and gentlemen, the philosophy of the ecological civilization has been enshrined in China's constitution and inducted into his national policy and strategy, as well as international cooperation program and initiative, including the Belt and Road Initiative. By hosting the CBD COP15 in Kunming, China is determined to work with the international community, including our ECMOD member country, to conserve the faster declined global diversity. The 2020 is the important year for China's history, as his aim to eradicate all forms of the absolutely rural poverty under current criteria, as part of his pledge to the UN SDG. Mountains, especially to the HKH region, are home to the most the poverty-stricken population of China. Integrating the conservation and the local development has always been the challenge and the policy focus for the government of China at all levels. While addressing the recent concluded UN summit on the biodiversity, Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed that China, guided by the vision of building a community with a shared future of the mankind, has been actively participating in the global environmental governance and pledged to the China is prepared to take the international responsibility commensurate with the levels of the development. President Xi is a promise that China will continue to make efforts to the scale up its national determines the contribution to the goals of the Paris Agreement. And China will strive to peak the carbon dioxide emission before the 2030 and achieve the carbon neutrality before 2060. Colleagues and their friends, China has been attaching the great importance to the conservation and the development of the HKH region. China regards ecological safeguard as the integrated components for its national security. In the national special planning, Tibetan Plateau and the adjoined area are all designated as the area of the national importance for the ecological function. Targeted policy, special finance mechanism, technology innovation, and the development commentators are designed for the region and achieve the double goals of conservation and the development. China has been actively cooperating with the member country in the HKH region in several fields, including the scientific research, technology transfer, capacity building, development assistance, and investment. Meanwhile, we are realized that all the regional cooperation is needed to effectively address the challenge of the region. The ongoing global COVID-19 pandemic features remind us we are living in an interconnected global village with a common stake. As the member of the country in this region, we are glad to and honored to that we will share the vision and the position with the all other 7 countries for the future's development. We are facing similar situations and global challenge. Therefore, China will continue to work close with the ECMO and all the member countries to have a more robust regional and multinational cooperation and to tackle this common challenge and achieve the goals of the common prosperity. To conclude my remark, I would like to state that we welcome and support the declarations and stress that as the largest national research of the development body in China, Chinese Academy of Sciences will continue to play a unique and important role in the process. Thank you very much for your attention. 谢谢.
Thank you, Professor Yongping. Coming to our speaker from India, the Honorable Union Minister Prakash Javadekar from the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. Over to you, Honorable Minister Shri Javadekar.
I'm very happy to be here with all of you, Excellencies, Ministerial colleagues, and I must thank first IC Mode for organizing this conference virtually. The HKH call for action to sustain mountain environments and improve livelihoods in the Hindu Kush Himalaya are very important actions. And India fully agree with what we have decided. We have decided to cooperate at all levels across the HKH region for sustainable and mutual benefits. And we are committed for doing that. Recognize and prioritize the uniqueness of HKH mountain people, because that is culture, that is the special heritage we have. Take concerted climate action at all levels to limit global warming at 2 degrees, as agreed in Paris. Take accelerated action to achieve SDGs and 9 mountain priorities. Enhance ecosystems, resilience, halt biodiversity loss and land degradation. India has taken up a new pledge for restoration of 26 million hectares of degraded land. So that we are going ahead with. And regional data and information sharing and science and knowledge cooperation is what is important. As we understand, the forested landscape of Himalayas act as a major carbon sink with a total carbon pool of over 2.5 billion tons. The region has large water reserves in the form of glaciers covering approximately 37,000 square kilometers. The value of ecosystem must be 1 trillion rupees. Indian Himalayas are the treasure house of traditional knowledge and practices. Communities use over 675 wild plant species as food. 1750 plants are known to have medicinal values. The flora and fauna of the genetic diversity of crops and ecosystems are being impacted at a fast pace. This is increase in the frequency of disasters and extreme events. Also, about 1/3 of Himalaya springs are reporting reduced, but the new study gives us new hope. The government of India accords very high significance to the Himalayan region. Besides a dedicated Institute of Research and Development in the form of GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment National Mission on Himalayan Studies has been taken up to enhance ecological, cultural and social economical assets and values to the IHR. Under national mission, as many as 190 projects have been sanctioned. More than 250 institutes and organizers are directly participating in the program. The government has also launched National Mission for Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem to contribute to India's climate action for migrating-like impacts of changes due to natural causes and human activities in the Himalayan region in a coordinated manner involving all possible stakeholders. Many of the issues like atmospheric pollution, biodiversity conservation, water-induced disasters, conservation of biocultural heritage, food and nutritional security of mountain communities, and trade and tourism cut across boundaries. There is a need to have a better understanding of common challenges and opportunities in the entire Hindu Kush Himalaya region. The Hindu Kush Himalaya Assessment Report, developed by over 350 scientists from the region and coordinated by IC Mode, is a step forward towards integration of scientific evidence and the policies and practices in the HKH countries. HKH call to action developed in consultation with 8 HKH countries will help in laying the roadmap for strengthening our quest towards prosperous, peaceful Himalayan region that is food, energy and water secure with built-in environmental and social safeguards. The disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic has impacted to a certain extent, but I am very happy that we are recovering soon and fast, and about the opportunities we have lost in tourism and other things by next year. I am sure that the ministerial summit of HKH countries will lay the foundation for improved cooperation among HKH countries based on good scientific evidences to tackle serious environmental issues in a very significant region in the world. Because this is unique region. In the world, there is no comparison for Hindu Kush region. And therefore, we have to keep our treasure intact and develop it in a sustainable way. India fully supports call of action, and at the same time, I am very happy with this forum of ministers of the HKH countries. I urge the countries and IC Mode to make such interactions a regular feature, and therefore I am suggesting that this biennial effort should continue and should really strengthen our cooperation. I thank IC Mode for organizing this event for strengthening collaborative actions across HKH region. I am confident that this will go a long way in contributing to the well-being of the people and environment of the Himalayan region, which is critical for our food, water, and energy security. Lastly, I'll just say that we must hold a multi-stakeholder HKH Science Policy Forum on a regular basis in order to enhance the uptake of scientific evidence for improving policies in the region focusing on mountain environment and livelihoods. And we must constitute a task force. I think our agreement on this will reflect in the ministerial declaration. So I thank everybody for cooperation and active cooperation for development, sustainable development of the Hindu Kush region. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Shri Javadekar. Moving now to our speaker from Myanmar, Honorable Union Minister U On Win from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Conservation. Honorable Minister Win, please. Honorable Minister, I believe your mic is on mute.
Excellencies, honorable members of the Board of Governors, distinguished members of ICIMOD Support Group, Dr. David Morden, Director General of ICIMOD, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to extend my warmest greetings to you all on this auspicious occasion. May you all be blessed with physical and spiritual well-being. Taking this opportunity, I would also like to express my sincere appreciations to the ICIMOD, particularly Dr. David Morden, the Director General for convening this Hindu-Kush Himalaya Ministerial Summits virtually amidst the COVID pandemic. I thank you for the kind invitation extended to me to participate in this important forum. I consider it a privilege and honor to represent Myanmar at this meeting. I welcome the opportunity to exchange views and experience on our endeavors to achieve sustainable development of our mountain communities. The summit is no doubt a reflection of our region's strong interest to share our views, experience, and thoughts on the key findings of the HKH assessments and the HKH call to actions, as well as for the strengthening of science-based regional cooperation and the landing of our unified voice for mountains on the global stage. It is in this context that I wish to express my belief that the summits will provide the impetus needed for the member countries of the region to be able to move forward in the implementation of the collaborative programs and the partnerships pertaining to the sustainable development of mountain communities and mountain ecosystems. I am confident that the summit will be able to develop synergies and initiate regional cooperation that can grow from strength to strength in the years to come. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Myanmar, as one of the founding members of the ICIMOD, has been collaborating with Center for over 3 decades in various development programs, including the Landscape Initiative for Far Eastern Himalaya High Life Program, the Himalayan University Consortium, HUC, the Himalaya Program, and the RED Plus Himalaya Initiative Program. Myanmar and ICIMOD has been working closely in the area of enhancing the resilience to climate change and other changes in vulnerable communities through program of supports to livelihood improvement and diversifications, and to related capacity building and institutional strengthening. We have also been cooperating with regard to a wide range of activities that include internships, research, and demonstrations, regional also and international workshops and conferences. Myanmar has also participated in various project activities, which include remote sensing and GIS, biodiversity conservation, watershed management, ecotourism, community forestry, livelihood improvement, RED plus and climate change mitigation, and adaptation in the mountain regions. Myanmar has gained substantial benefit from the ICIMOD regional programs as they contribute to the sustainable development of mountain communities and sustainable management of forests. Taking this opportunity, I would like to express our deep appreciations to the ICIMOD for its enduring commitments, not only to facilitate the collaborated programs among partners, but also in the supporting capacity development of our peoples through various channels. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to share with you the progress Myanmar has achieved in forestry and environmental sector. Myanmar as a signatory to international conventions, agreements, and treaties such as the UNFCCC, the UNCBD, and the UNCCD, has been striving ceaselessly to promote climate change mitigation, biodiversity conservation, to combat desertification through sustainable forest management, restoration of degraded forest ecosystem, and to combat drought, land degradation, and desertification, DLDD. Myanmar, as a party to Paris Agreement, has also developed policy instruments, action plans, and set up sectoral coordination mechanisms to play its role in the global efforts on climate change. Myanmar is developing a new action plan, nationally determined contribution NDC, which will be submitted to the UNFCCC despite being a relatively low greenhouse gas GHG emitter and being a net GHG sink. Myanmar has itself affirmed its willingness to undertake a series of actions to demonstrate its commitments to climate change mitigation and highlight options for adaptation. Myanmar recognizes the importance of creating harmony and balance between economic development and environmental sustainability. Accordingly, the National Environmental Policy 2019, the Myanmar Climate Change Policy 2019, the Myanmar Climate Change Strategy 2018 to 2030, and the Myanmar Climate Change Master Plan 2018-2030 had been endorsed and launched to further provide strategic directions to the country. The Forest Law 2018, the Conservation of Biodiversity and Protective Areas Law 2018, and Community Forestry Instructions 2019 are in place and are being exercised as legal frameworks for the forest, biodiversity and livelihood improvement of the local communities. In order to reduce deforestation and forest degradation, as well as to strengthen sustainable forest management, the government of Myanmar has initiated important actions that include the lot export ban, the forest lot enforcement, governance and trade, FLAG-T, the Myanmar Legality and Assurance System, MTLAS, RDD Plus, and the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, EITI. In addition to the aforementioned measures, the nationally funded Myanmar Rehabilitation and Reforestation Program, MRP 2017 to 18 to 2026-2027, and the Reintroducing Natural Habitat for Wildlife Programs 2019-2020 to 2028-29 were also initiated to strengthen sustainable forest management, restore degraded forests, accelerate biodiversity conservation, improve rural community, and importantly, mitigate climate change. In this regard, I am pleased to and happy to learn about the key findings of the HKH assessment report and the HKH call to actions, which outlines 6 urgent actions for the environmental sustainability and improvement of people's well-being and prosperity in the HKH regions. The HKH call to action is very much in line with Myanmar efforts of sustainable development. Accordingly, we would like to welcome the HKH call to action, and we are keen to extend our cooperation to implement the measures in collaboration with the ICIMOD and the member countries of the regions. Here, I would like to touch upon the challenges posed by the worldwide spread of COVID-19. Myanmar has not been spared. The devastating effects of the pandemic, like our countries, COVID-19 has caused a series of negative impacts and compounded the vulnerabilities of mountain communities already impacted by climate change and natural disasters such as landslides, floods, and earthquakes. The HKH call to action, as well as the preparation of the recovery package of COVID-19, will be helpful for us to address structural drivers of vulnerabilities, to conserve our forests, and to build inclusive and resilient societies. We need to value our natural resources and ecosystem services to better inform policy and decision making, particularly as the HKH region is a hotspot of unique biodiversity and ecosystems. With this, I'm strongly recommend moving forward so that we will be able to translate policy into sound actions, employing approaches that are inclusive and nature-based. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, taking this opportunity, I would like to express my sincere appreciations and congratulations to Dr. David Morden, the DG, and Dr. Eclair Bra Shamar, DDG of ICIMOD, who led the ICIMOD for 10 years for their substantial efforts and contributions for the ICIMOD. They are deeply committed to and deeply humbled by their works, providing strategic leadership to the organization in pursuing its missions, developing strategic plans, establishing a results framework for its programs and services, and upholding the highest professional and ethical standards. I would say his year of dedication have improved ICIMOD and strengthened collaboration among regional member countries in so many ways. Congratulations on your retirement. We wish you all the best for your retirement and enjoy this exciting new chapter in your life. At the same time, I would like to say congratulations to Dr. Pima Japshu, selected as the new Director General of ICIMOD, and you are warmly welcome to the ICIMOD families. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the ICIMOD Secretariat, the Board of Governors, the development partners, all the speakers, task force members, for their tremendous efforts to ensure the success of this summit. My thanks also go to all the leading researchers, practitioners, and policy specialists who share their expertise, experience, and precious time in the preparation of the HKH assessments and the HKH call to actions. I firmly believe that we will be able to achieve result-oriented outcomes at the end of the summit and build upon the momentum for more robust regional cooperation and a roadmap for achieving the sustainable goals, SDGs, in the member countries. I wish Hindu Kush Himalaya HKH Ministerial Mountain Summits 2020 every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Win. Our speaker from Nepal is the Honorable Minister Shakti Bahadur Basnet from the Ministry of Forests and Environment. Over to you, Honorable Minister Basnet.
Thank you. Honorable fellow ministers, excellencies, Director General of ICIMOD, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and namaste. I begin by thanking and congratulating ICIMOD for organizing this important Hindu Kush Himalayan Ministerial Summit 2020. I feel honored and privileged to be here with you today in this Summit 2020. We must look now where our antecedent, civilization, culture, religion, and values originate. We must not forget that we originated from mountains and mountains live in our lives and vice versa. Our mountains matter more than we know. The Hindu Kush Himalaya is the youngest and highest mountain system of the world that provide invaluable ecosystem services to the vast population in this region. Nepal, as a mountainous country, covers 64% middle mountain and 17% Himalayan region of the area. For Nepal, mountain resources are a lifeline for us. They provide fresh air, clean water, food and livelihood, mineral and medicine, and help to sustain human life and economy. Nepal accords high priority to mountain conservation and has made a good progress in community-based resource conservation. Climate change, one of the most pressing global environmental challenges facing humanity, has implications on food production, natural ecosystems, fresh water supply, and health in mountains. Mountain ecosystems are highly sensitive to climate change and are being impacted faster and disproportionately than other terrestrial habitats. The rise in air temperature to rapid melting of glaciers and increment of the threat from melting glacier lakes and its possible outbursts, posing serious concern to protect the lives and property in the downstreams. Major river systems of this region, which are linkage and lifeline of upstream and downstreams, are being severely impacted. At this point, we must not be further late to handle this scenario. Extreme climate events due to climate change, such as heavy rainfall, flooding, droughts, heat wave, and cold stream, are also posing challenges in the mountains. Moreover, Nepal is largely dependent on climate-sensitive sectors for its such as rain-fed agriculture, its fragile mountain ecosystems, and dramatic topography make the country prone to flooding. Due to the such events, agricultural productivity is declining with increasing problem of food security in mountainous regions. Similarly, exploitation of natural resources associated with growing population has led to increasing pollution, declining water quality, and land degradation. In recent years, the signs of such changes are being observed and may become more prominent over next couple of decades. Many rural communities are struggling through different adaptation measures as an attempt to reduce the risk of climate change vulnerability. Mountains are not only threatened by climate change, but also deforestation, to unsustainable increase erosion and threaten biodiversity and trigger floods and landslides. In addition, hunger, malnutrition, and poverty are rising in mountain areas. Over the last decade, the government of Nepal has taken a number of concrete steps to ensure that our development pathway is resilient to climate change and inclusive through policy formulation, institutional arrangements, and strengthening program development and implementation. Government of Nepal, with the goal of contributing to socio-economic prosperity by developing climate resilient society, has developed and implemented Environment Protection Act 2019 and Regulation 2020, National Climate Change Policy 2019 and LAPA Framework 2019, and several climate change projects under international climate finance. Nepal, by the end of 2020 or soon thereafter, will have gender and climate change strategy and action plan, resilience planning guideline, a well-structured climate change planning process, Nepal's long-term strategy on climate change, an enhanced NDC report submitted and a NAP formulated, third national communication report submitted, priority ground results in building capacity. Nepal is already experiencing significant social, environmental, and economic shock due to COVID-19. Now and future, to find nature-based solutions, transitioning to green economy and recovery in the context of post-COVID-19. At this juncture, I would like to highly commend efforts of ICIMOD on climate change and environment as an intergovernmental knowledge and learning center in developing research, information, innovation, and provide science-based evidence required for our policy processing. Protecting mountains constitutes a critical component of our national aspiration of prosperous Nepal, happy Nepal. I sincerely believe that a regional cooperation with strong national initiatives backed up by effective collaborative partnership will go a long way in overcoming the adverse effects of climate change and sustainable development pathways. The government of Nepal fully recognize and support the 6 urgent SK's call to action, and we should collectively strive to work together to mainstream these actions into policies and programs. I consider that this ministerial summit is a significant milestone for us. Let us muster requisite political will, promote ideas and innovations, and act robustly to conserve our mountains. Let's unite and work together to protect mountains for the future of humanity. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Basnet. Moving now to our speaker from Pakistan, the Honorable Federal Minister Syed Fakhar Imam from the Ministry of National Food Security and Research. Over to you, Honorable Minister Imam.
Colleagues, ministers, ICIMOD board members, ICIMOD officials, honorable distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My greetings to all and facilitation to all the participants. We in Pakistan are delighted to be part of the Ministerial Mountain Summit today through a virtual platform. I in particular congratulate ICIMOD for hosting such an important high-level meeting at a time when unprecedented climatic and non-climatic challenges are impacting millions across the globe, and in fact unprecedented in recent times, not only in the mountains alone but across the world. Honorable Excellencies, it is also an important and timely conference, especially given the pandemic situation the world is going through. This pandemic has challenged our social, economic, ecological, and governance systems to the extreme, and at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to learn from each other's experience and gain and plan jointly going beyond individual, community, and national borders across the globe to address this very big challenge. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan is very fortunate to be home to a very rich and diverse natural resource and biodiversity. Mountains are extremely important as they embody most important natural resources and ecosystem services. Pakistan still being a predominantly agricultural economy, it is the food basket system to 220 million Pakistanis and is dependent on the glaciers that provide water to our great Indus Basin overall. The mountain resources are not only important for food security, but are also very important in providing energy, adding value to our industry, and modernization of our goods and services, including tourism. Honorable Excellencies, it is important to note that climate change is not only adversely impacting lives, environment, and adaptive capacities of the people and natural system, but in many ways offers an array of opportunities. It may be in the form of crops, livestock, fisheries, agroforestries, forestry, different products, processes, and technology. It is in this context that we all must come together to develop a comprehensive and sustainable solution for the people in the mountains, which are ultimately critical in achieving sustainable development goals, both at the national, regional, and the international levels. I am pleased to mention that Pakistan is fully cognizant of the challenges that are facing the developing world in particular, and we need to augment our policy formulation and strategies to overcome these very enormous challenges. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, given the agenda of the conference and the declaration that has been presented for strengthening regional efforts for the HKH region, I believe that the HKH region is a vital regional lifeline for all livelihoods, biodiversity, and sustainability. In this backdrop, I would like to reiterate the commitment on behalf of the people and government of Pakistan in joining hands with our neighboring countries that are present here to envision a prosperous future and sustainable strategic roadmap for regional cooperation for the HKH region. In this regard, Pakistan endorses the HKH Call to Action agenda and the constitution of a task force to suggest an institutional mechanism for strengthening science-based regional cooperation. Last but not the least, I heard that there are changes in the ISOMERT senior management. I would like to welcome the new Director General, Dr. Pema Gyamsho, and assure Pakistan's fullest support to his leadership. And also, I would like to give my highest appreciation to the outgoing Honorable Director General, Dr. David Molden, for his remarkable services to this region during his tenure. In the end, I would like to thank all of you for holding such a successful ministerial summit. I'd like to express my gratitude to all the organizers and participants of this historic summit. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Imam. Our colleague, Dr. Amina Morhajan, had earlier in this program read the full text of the ministerial declaration on the HKH call to action. Now we'd like to display all of the individual signatures from our honorable ministers who have signed the declaration. On behalf of the government of Afghanistan, Honorable Minister Anwarul Haq Ahadi from the Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation, and Livestock. On behalf of the government of Bangladesh, Honorable Minister Bir Bahadur Ushwe Singh, MP, from the Ministry of Chittagong Hill Tax Affairs. On behalf of the Royal Government of Bhutan, Honorable Minister Lompo Yeshi Penjor from the Ministry of Agriculture and Forests for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs of the United Kingdom. It appears we're having a little bit of difficulty loading the pre-recorded video. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for your patience. We're having a little bit of a technical problem right now. Unfortunately, it appears that we're having some difficulty with this pre-recorded message from the UK minister. And I'm hoping that my colleague will soon be able to load that. Thank you.
And voice is not there.
Then you have to unmute yourself.
Then please unmute and restart.
Thank you for your patience, and I apologize for these technical difficulties that we're experiencing with our internet connection. My colleague Udayan Mishra is seeking to load the pre-recorded message and to ensure that the sound comes.
Udain, you are muted. That's why it's not coming.
Yes, thank you. We're seeking to solve this small technical problem, and I think it should be solved immediately.
Yeah.
Apologies for the delay. Here we go.
Use the original one today.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to address this, the first Hindu Kush Himalaya Ministerial Mountain Summit. And I'd like to thank ICIMOD for hosting us today. The water tower of Asia is the source of 10 major rivers, providing water for nearly 2 billion people. It's almost impossible to exaggerate its importance for humanity. The mountains also contain 4 global biodiversity hotspots, much of that biodiversity yet to be discovered. Around 35 new species were found every single year in the eastern Himalayas between 1998 and 2008. Now, the UK is proud to have supported ICIMOD in delivering the Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment, the first comprehensive analysis of the global importance of this region, the threats its environment and people face, and the action needed to save it. And it makes sobering reading. The region is expected to lose up to 87% of its original habitat by the end of this century. And because of its high elevation, these mountains are absolutely on the front line when it comes to the impacts and threat of climate change. Because even if the world manages to keep global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, which we absolutely must, that nevertheless translates to more than 2 degrees for the mountains. Now, on current emissions trends, temperatures will greatly exceed 1.5 degrees. And the impact on these mountains, the world's third pole, will be utterly devastating. Perhaps most worryingly, its glaciers are projected to decline by 90% this century. So it is imperative that we take action now. And this summit is an important step on that path. As a long-standing partner of ICIMOD, the UK both supports and is ready to be part of the call to action. And as COP26 president, we are absolutely determined to deliver the highest possible ambition globally. We're asking countries to produce strengthened, nationally determined contributions. We've identified 5 core campaigns: clean energy, clean transport, finance, adaptation and resilience, and nature. And it's nature that I want to focus on briefly today, because we cannot tackle climate change without both protecting and restoring nature on an unprecedented, massive scale. Nature-based solutions could provide around 1/3 of the cost-effective climate change mitigation that we need over the next decade, while also helping reverse nature destruction, preventing poverty, and enabling communities to adapt and become more resilient. But despite that huge contribution, they currently attract just 3% of global climate funding. So governments clearly need to step up. The UK Prime Minister announced last year that we are doubling our international climate finance to £11.6 billion. He also announced that we would be allocating much of that additional funding to nature-based solutions like forests and mangroves, protecting and restoring peatlands. In the run-up to COP26, we're asking other donor countries to do similarly. Then at the UN last month, the leaders of 76 nations, including the UK, signed an unprecedented, powerful call to action to reverse the decline of nature by 2030 and to put wildlife and the climate at the heart of post-pandemic planning. I'm proud that the UK was a leading voice in helping to craft that undeniably powerful pledge. But we have a duty now to turn those powerful words into meaningful action. The HKH call to action makes the same critically important links between people, climate, and nature. It emphasizes the need for solutions that deliver both for people and the planet. It makes plain the importance of cross-border cooperation. And I believe this region can be a shining example of that. So I'd like to invite the ambassadors of the HKH countries in the UK to an event in London to build a consensus for COP26 on the critical importance of mountains in climate change. The meeting will take place in February 2021, and my officials will follow up with you directly with the details. So let me end by reiterating that as COP26 president, the UK stands ready to work with you and our global partners to deliver meaningful, measurable action in response to this call to action. The world is absolutely counting on us. Thank you very much indeed.
We're very grateful to the Right Honourable Minister from the UK for providing these inspirational and supportive remarks. And we're grateful to the full range of strategic partners and international supporters who've also been critical to this process. We have 2 more sets of brief remarks before we move toward the closing of this summit. I'd like to invite ICIMOD's member of the Board of Governors from the Government of Nepal, the Honourable Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Pushparaj Kadel, to give his remarks. Over to you, Honourable Vice Chairman, Dr. Kadel.
Thank you, Vasily. Honourable Ministers from the Hindu Kush Himalaya countries, high-level dignitaries and Your Excellencies, ICIMOD Board of Governors, ICIMOD Support Group, Director General of ICIMOD Dr. David Molden and Incoming Director General Dr. Pema Gyamso, distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to give remarks on this auspicious occasion of the first ever Hindu Kush Himalaya Ministerial Mountain Summit 2020 being held virtually on behalf of ICIMOD Board of Governors and National Planning Commission of Nepal. As we are facing unprecedented challenges of COVID-19, this is truly an unusual time. Like in many other countries, Nepal faced colossal disruption and impacts due to COVID-19 pandemic on socio-economic landscape. We would have much liked to hold this summit face-to-face in Kathmandu and welcome all of you to Nepal, but could not be possible. Nonetheless, we do hope we can convene such an event in future. As a board member of ICIMOD, I have followed the launch of the HKS assessment report and the preparations of urgent HKS call to action closely. I would like to thank Dr. David Molden, Director General of ICIMOD, and his team for a remarkable job and making it possible to hold this historic event in a short span of time. As you all know, the HKS region has become more interdependent and interconnected than ever before. The growing interdependence has unleashed both opportunities and challenges besides the enormous impacts of COVID-19 that we are facing. The UN has put forward the blueprint for 17 Sustainable Development Goals with 169 targets and 232 indicators to be achieved by 2030, and the Paris Climate Agreement to remain temperature within a specified limit. Climate change and now the post-pandemic situation not only is jeopardizing our efforts to achieving the SDG, but also reverses development gains earlier attended, rendering the millions of poor to the brink of the further marginalization. This has made the situation even worse with widespread impacts on our dwindling economy and with deep-rooted negative impacts on poor people. Hence, building resilience and reducing vulnerabilities are thus our common agenda for sustainable mountain development by exploiting cutting-edge science, technology, and innovation. This is beyond the reach of one country per se and calls for a robust regional cooperation than ever before among the Hindu Kush Himalayan countries to meet the needs and aspirations of mountain and downstream communities. Our success and failure will be determined by our collective efforts to manage the challenges and changes in a positive and impactful way. With the signing of the ministerial declaration and a clearly laid out blueprint for the HKS call to action, ICIMOD can amplify its work and bring positive impacts to sustain mountain environments and improve livelihoods in the Hindu Kush Himalaya countries. Furthermore, this will provide an impetus to green recovery efforts. I would like to assure that the government of Nepal as a host country of ICIMOD will be happy to take the leading role in this regional alliance of the HKS countries to give continuity to a political dialogue for greater recognition of the vulnerabilities of mountain communities and raise the mountain voice and agenda at the regional and international levels. We remain committed for mutual cooperation and support. It has been a pleasure to be part of this forum among the honorable ministers, prominent personalities, and dignitaries, and once again like to thank ICIMOD for convening this first ever the HKS Ministerial Mountain Summit. Lastly, on behalf of ICIMOD Board of Governors, the support group, and the entire ICIMOD family, we express our solidarity and a commitment to work collectively in meeting the aspirations of the ministerial declaration and towards a more prosperous HKS region. At this juncture, I would also like to warmly welcome incoming Director General Dr. Pema Gyamso to ICIMOD and Nepal, and wishing him all the success for his tenure and lead ICIMOD toward newer heights. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chairman Dr. Karel. As has been mentioned in this summit, we're wishing farewell to our outgoing Director General, Dr. David Molden, and we'd also like to welcome our new Director General, Dr. Pema Gyamso, to begin his tenure today at this summit. I'd like to invite you to give your remarks here. Dr. Gyamso.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laurie Vasily. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members of the Board of Governors of ICIMOD, distinguished members of ICIMOD Support Group, Dr. David Molden, Director General of ICIMOD and convener of this ministerial summit, my dear colleagues at ICIMOD. The voice of the Hindu Kush Himalayas has just become louder. It is indeed a great honor for me to give the closing remarks at this landmark event, the Hindu Kush Himalayan Ministerial Mountain Summit. I couldn't have asked for a better platform to begin my tenure and step into the large shoes of Dr. David Malden as the new Director General of ICIMOD. This historic event gives me further strength and confidence to take forward the unique mission of ICIMOD as the first Director General from the region. At the onset, let me congratulate our 8 regional member countries for taking this very bold step in coming together to demonstrate their political will and commitment to the protection of the Hindu Kush Himalayan mountains and for securing the livelihoods of millions of people dependent on them. The declaration signed by the honorable ministers from our 8 member countries today heralds a new beginning for this region and augurs well for the future of our mountains and mountain people. I am deeply inspired and motivated by the statements of our honorable ministers and their pledges of renewed political commitment to support ICIMOD. At the same time, I have become even more conscious of the magnitude of the responsibilities that I am about to shoulder in taking forward the process. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a meeting at this high level is long overdue. All of us know that the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is experiencing monumental changes due to climate change, natural disasters, globalization, urbanization, and many other drivers as documented in the HKH assessment report. For instance, as highlighted by Dr. Eklavya Sharma in his presentation and echoed in the statements of our honorable ministers, the impact of global warming is much more rapid and pronounced than in other areas. Our snow cover is retreating, our glaciers are melting, our glacial lakes are bursting, our rainfall patterns are erratic, our rivers are changing courses, our streams are drying, our biodiversity is disappearing, and our environment is degrading. Our people are experiencing multiple disasters and hardships. Their livelihoods and ways of life are being threatened, and new unexpected challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic are emerging. As Dr. Malden already mentioned, these are the facts that we all acknowledge, just as we acknowledge that the challenges are common and the challenges don't recognize national boundaries. These challenges, therefore, require regional and international cooperation to address them, as already mentioned by many of our honorable ministers. In this regard, we may have the science, we may have the technology, we may have the resources and the capacity needed, but without the political will and commitment of our governments to work together and acknowledge that the issues and challenges cut across borders and that we share common goals and aspirations, we may end up being mere observers to a rapidly unfolding turn of events for the worst. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we may accord grand references to the Hindu Kush Himalayas as the third pole, the water towers of Asia, or the pulse of the planet. But our actions so far have not been commensurate with these grand references. The HKH call to action, therefore, endorsed at this meeting through the ministerial declaration, is a giant step forward in walking the talk. We hope that we will be able to rapidly move towards establishing an institutional mechanism similar to the Alpine Convention and the Arctic Council to provide political and scientific oversight to ensure the future of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. Personally, it will be my aspiration to achieve this important goal for the region. I think of the HKH mountains as part of the natural bounty of Mother Earth, feeding thousands both within the region and reaching far into downstream areas. The 10 major rivers that originate from the region sustains the lives of over 1.9 billion people, either directly or indirectly, and support a diversity of other life forms, including rare plant and animal species. Imagine life without these rivers. Therefore, we cannot just stand by and watch the region suffer from all of the elements inflicted by climate change and other drivers. So this is a clarion call from our region, not just for cures by treating the symptoms as diagnosed by the HKH assessment, but also to prevent the underlying causes as prescribed under the 6 urgent actions outlined in the HKH call to action. Ladies and gentlemen, history has brought us together today, and in spite of the challenges posed by the COVID pandemic that prevented us from meeting in person, we have achieved our goal to agree on this historic pact. I hope that one day, many years down the line, you can proudly share with your children and your grandchildren that I was there, and in turn, they would share with their children that you were there. May I also take this opportunity to acknowledge the wholehearted support and guidance provided by our regional and independent members of the ICIMOD Board of Governors. ICIMOD's standing and efficiency as an apolitical international center for mountains will continue to depend on not only your official and professional competence and guidance, but even more importantly, on your personal passion and commitment. I look forward to receiving even more support and advice as we embark on the journey ahead to respond to the HKH call to action that our honorable ministers have signed today. It goes without saying that nothing much could have been done or could be done without the financial support and goodwill of our development partners. In this regard, we owe much to the ICIMOD support group for their unstinted support to the center. I know that individual members of the ISG have gone out of their way to source financing for the center and hope that their passion and dedications for the mountain will be further rekindled with the successful conduct of this historic meeting. The successful implementation of the HKH call to action would require innovative funding mechanisms on a sustained basis from multiple sources, for which we will need your wholehearted support. The message that we heard today from the Right Honourable Lord Goldsmith of the United Kingdom was not only inspiring, but stands testimony to the love and concern of the international community. Before I conclude, I would like to take place on record the innermost contribution that Dr. David Malden has made in not only steering the process that has brought us here today, but also for ICIMOD and the region as a whole. With his quiet efficiency and leadership, he has put ICIMOD on a sound footing and oversaw the rapid growth of the Institute, both in scale and in scope. I would like to assure you, David, that I will commit myself to further build on what you have done and strive to take ICIMOD to our shared vision of a globally recognized center of excellence. I know that you will always be there to guide us and wish you and your wife, Karen, once again a very happy and healthy life. And if you're here today, I will be offering this scarf to you, Tashidli. I would also like to acknowledge the tireless efforts put in by Dr. Eglabia Sharma, Deputy Director General of ICIMOD, in making this event a reality. I am sure he will continue to be associated with our journey on the roadmap outlined in the HKH call to action, even after his retirement in December this year. Let me also thank all my other colleagues at ICIMOD for the commitment and professionalism you have shown in supporting the process, and I will be relying on you to take forward the movement. Our country focal persons deserve special mention for the efforts we have made to liaise with the respective governments. To the hundreds of scientists and other officials from our regional member countries and from other countries involved in the HKH assessment, I wish to thank you and assure you that your efforts will not go in vain. Finally, let me thank His Excellency Mr. Pradeep Kumar Ghafoori, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Government of Nepal, for his very warm welcome, which set the tone for this summit today. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Pushparaj Gadel for putting the icing on the cake with his concluding remarks. Let me end by thanking our very own Dr. Laurie Vasily for the very efficient moderation of this summit. Thank you, and touch the leg to all.
Thank you, Dr. Jamsho. We're happy that you'll be helping us to carry forward all of the important work of this summit's declaration, the HKH call to action, and all of the associated work so fundamentally important to help build a more prosperous HKH region for all. If I could request our speakers in today's summit to turn on your videos for a group photo. So all of our 9 speakers, the honorable ministers, the honorable vice director of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the honorable vice chairman of the National Planning Commission in Nepal, as well as the outgoing ICIMOD Director General, Dr. David Molden, and incoming ICIMOD Director General, Dr. Pema Jamsho. If you could kindly turn on your videos for a moment so that we could take a group photo of this event. Do we have all of our ministers here with us for the photo, Udayan?
Laurie, I think we still have 1 or 2 more to come.
Okay, I see our Professor Yong Ping from China, Honorable Minister Wu On Win from Myanmar, the Honorable Minister from Nepal, from India, the Honorable Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission here in Nepal.
Yeah, Honorable Minister of Environment and Forest from India he had to attend an important meeting, so he just left. So he won't be available for the photograph.
Okay, thank you for that information. Udayan, I think we should then just move forward with the photograph as it is. Thank you so much to all of the
minister the minister from Pakistan has also left for another meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Lauren and Uday, can you put me on the screen as well?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Honorable Minister Lompo Yeshil Penjor from Bhutan, you are there on the screen. I think individual screens look slightly different, so I can see that you're on the screen. And can I ask other participants to turn off their videos? Only just our speakers from today. If you could put your videos on. Yes, thank you. So I believe we've captured the group photo, Udayan, is that correct?
Thank you, Laurie. Yes, I have done that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to everyone. This brings us to the end of today's summit. I'd like to thank the Honorable Foreign Minister from Nepal, the Honorable Ministers who've signed the declaration, the Honorable Vice Director of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the Honorable Vice Chairman of Nepal's Planning Commission, who have all made their remarks in this summit today, to our Board of Governors, our ICIMOD support group, and to all of the distinguished guests who have joined this event. Thank you for your patience. I realize we've gone over time and we had some technical difficulties. So thank you very much for your patience. And to my ICIMOD colleagues, I look forward to our continued work together on this significant HKH call to action. With that, I would like to close this summit with my best wishes for your continued good health and well-being. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.